All right, so this is going to be a review on the ZSA Moonlander Mk1 Ergo Split keyboard. I actually have pain on my forearms and wrists that developed about a year ago after a little over 15 years of using normal keyboards in QWERTY layout. I didn't even know Ergo keyboards existed until I started having this pain, and my doctor suggested I look into them because I have a bad posture when I sit in my chair like a lot of people do because it feels comfortable in the moment. But over time, doing that over and over for years is pretty bad. I do basically like a T-Rex pose when I type, and my wrists are at this weird-ass angle, which obviously is probably not good long-term, but short-term, it didn't feel bad. And then I would angle my hands inwards while doing this, and then I would put the keyboard at a weird angle besides that, because I like to PC game, and when it's at an angle, and my hand is like, not like this, but like this, it just felt easier to do controls, but that was actually bad over time as it turned out. You might notice me look this way and not this way. It's because the camera is kind of up at me. I'm sorry about that. So on the screen, this is what the keyboard looks like. It also comes in black. I got the black one, white one. It doesn't matter. They're identical. There is no difference. The big deal that was very hard for me to get used to is that I believe it's called ortholinear. The keys are not staggered. They're perfectly vertical columns. And they're also perfectly horizontal. So, well, yeah, they are perfectly horizontal. So that's really weird if you've never used one before. That took me like 5 or 6 months before it became like a sort of a second nature muscle movement. Because you're retraining like 15 years of your hand movements. So it's honestly pretty debilitating. I went from like 60 to 70 words a minute with like no airs down to like 5 words a minute, 10 words a minute, 15. I was stuck at about 15 to 20 words a minute for about 2 months straight. It was the most frustrating time of my life for typing. However, I put up with it because I had absolutely no pain in my forearms or wrists. Now, I've fiddled with all sorts of ways you can angle the keyboard, but truthfully, you shouldn't really be angling it because that just puts you back where you started, where you have a bad posture and you're just setting yourself up for problems later. So I've tried very hard to have it put out just like it shows on the website. Or if you go look up like Short Circuit, the other channel from LTT, they cover ergo boards a lot randomly. And one of their writers has talked about all the different ways you can mess up your wrists and forearms. So watch him. He's more knowledgeable than me. But the point is, shoulders width apart and keep your hands like straight flat out. So like this basically. And then if you do that, pretty much all your pain goes away and doesn't come back. But as soon as you start taking up that bad posture again, your pain will come back within a few days. Or, I mean, it might not. Everyone's a little different, but that's what happens to me. The other thing is the tenting. So it has these little knobs on the side with rubber feet. These things are legendary. They're kind of like on a ratchet, and they click into place every time you rotate them. The downside is, at least online, the nut that holds it in place, it's all friction fit, so you have to like really torque it down to make it stay. I'm kind of a hard typer, so when I'm clicking on keys, even though like I'm not meaning to, I just do it kind of hard. And for me, I always found it was coming loose and messing up my tenting angle. I don't recommend you tent it a lot to start out with. I don't. I have it so that each, what do you call it? Each keyboard half is only like maybe an inch off the table, just ever so slightly, a few degrees angled so that it's sort of, so it, like this is flat, right? Mine are like this. I only did that because it was more comfortable at shoulder width apart, but from what I see online, not many people care about that. Some people are perfectly happy using a perfectly flat keyboard. I'm not. But you can also tent it almost like, maybe like 40 degrees. Like, it can go pretty high. I just don't know how you would, I don't know. I can't use it that way. So, the thumb clusters also tent. The entire cluster is on a hinge, but it also has the problem of the friction fit nut, which, I mean, I think you're going to tear the threading off the nut. Or the, not the threading, but like the socket that the wrench goes into. It's an Allen wrench. I think you can tear the socket and make it smooth if you torque it too hard. I almost did that. But you have to. The friction fit system is not good enough. It's always coming loose. My left half is like permanently loose no matter how tight I make it. Every time I'm typing, it'll start wobbling or like sagging down with every press. It's the most annoying thing ever, and I honestly have no solution for it. I guess if you can get it to the perfect position and you never ever are going to move it again, you could like Loctite it or super glue it or something. But it's a pretty expensive keyboard, and I really don't want to do that on the off chance I ever had to like move it again, because it'd be a nightmare to move if you did that. Okay, now like, what are we going to say about performance? The included key switches are all hot swappable. The ones that came with the Cherry MX Browns, I hated those. Or maybe I had a bad batch. I don't know. I've used Browns before. They've never been an issue. But these ones felt almost linear, but they were extremely mushy, like a membrane keyboard, and some of the keys were like sticking down. I thought it was dirty. I took it apart. It wasn't dirty. There was nothing wrong with them. I cleaned everything with rubbing alcohol, made sure there was no dust, no debris. It just never fixed the problem. So I ended up getting switches that I like and just putting them all in. Best decision I ever made. Now the keyboard is like a dream. Everything's fine. Now, as for the thumb clusters, they were kind of... I thought they'd be very hard to get used to, and they kind of were, but it was not a big deal relative to ortholinear. That was the main problem I had. But when you compare this to something like the Glove 80, which a lot of people do, I don't think you can compare them. This is so similar to a regular keyboard other than the columns and the thumb clusters, but like the functionality of it and like the feel of your hands typing is very similar to my other boards. Like, for example, this is a Corsair K65 Plus. This was my dream keyboard, or, you know, what I thought was my dream keyboard. I paid like $200 for the board and then like another $120 on switches, and I swapped all the switches, made it exactly the way I like it, lubed it all up. It was great. And then I, got an RSI and cried, and now it collects dust forever basically because I can't use it. So my point is, though, my dream keyboard's like fit and finish and feel is really similar to the Moonlander now that I've swapped all the switches again. So I'd recommend before you tear your hair out and return it because it feels weird or like the presses just aren't clicking with your head, just swap the switches, then make a full decision. Because I almost thought that I was going to get a, not a Glove 80, Advantage 360, the wired version. You always hear people say, oh, those are great, but you can't hot swap the switches on those, and they only come with MX Browns or linears. There is a third-party company that will make you a custom Advantage 360. The downside is that it takes about 6 to 8 months to get it, and they only do it with Kale switches. But Kale switches are kind of like low-end. I've had Kale switches. They only lasted me about a year before they literally broke. I would never buy them again, ever, especially with how expensive that keyboard is, and especially since the switches are soldered to the freaking keyboard. No way. That's my opinion, though. Just do your own research. But this is the reason I went with the Moonlander instead of the Glove 80 or the Advantage 360. It just had to do with nothing is soldered on, and it's really similar to a regular keyboard, and the price is way lower. It was only like $300 or $350 or something for the Moonlander, but the Advantage 360 is like $450 to $500 depending on where you get it, and it costs way more than that if you want the Kale switches. So I don't know. A lot of people say the concaveness of a keyboard, in addition to the thumb clusters, is really what you need. Maybe, but for me, all my pain was primarily right here and right on my wrist. So no, concaveness didn't matter at all to me. It just mattered that I could position it at shoulders width apart and keep my hands flat out in front of me. So lastly, the thing is, if you hover your hands when you type, it feels really bad at first. I've just started doing it recently. It took me a few months before I could even get to the point of comfortably typing. I'll have a typing test in this video as I'm rambling. you'll see I'm up to about 70 words a minute with 100% accuracy, which is where I used to be on a regular keyboard. You might say that's slow. It's just as fast as I've ever been able to type. It's just how I am. So, I don't know. You could probably go faster than me. But anyways, hovering your hands really helps. Like, no fatigue, nothing. You type faster. Everything's fine. But if you're using the wrist rest that comes with the board, you're not really supposed to use it while you type, and I believe user manuals of multiple different Ergo split boards all say that. It's for resting, as the name suggests. It's not the wrist typing pad, it's the wrist resting pad. Get it? And that's like the final thing you need to correct your form, and you'll never have another problem again. Now, the only reason I would ever get another keyboard is purely because I like collecting keyboards and trying them all out. I have a whole box of keyboards behind me. I've been in this for like, I don't know, 10 years. The problem is they're expensive, and once you get used to this particular layout, you're going to have to freaking retrain memory or muscle memory all over again. It's going to be an absolute nightmare every time you want to switch. I'm to a point now where I cannot type on a regular QWERTY staggered keyboard. Like, I have a laptop, I have to hunt and peck. I'm completely fucked. I can't do it. Same thing happens with my Dream keyboard I showed earlier. I can't do it. I'm fucked. There's nothing I can do to type on that thing correctly. And I get pain within an hour or two of using it because it's so crammed together. It's awful. So that's the downside. If you do eventually get an Ergo keyboard as your main board and you truthfully stick to it and learn it and only use it, you might not be able to ever use a regular board again. So that's pretty much everything I have to say. The last keyboard review I did was 4 years ago. And as an update to that, it actually broke 1 year after I bought it, and I got mad and threw it in a dumpster. So don't ever buy a Logitech keyboard, is my advice. They break a lot, I guess, on the new ones. I never had a problem with like a G710 Orion or whatever it was called, or even like their original gaming board with their custom like mechanical switch that they were bragging about in like 2015. Those things are great, but their new ones from like 2020 till now, crap. Don't buy them. All right, that's it.